it's small. Hello. Hello. Get us out of this. Oh, wait a minute. Get us out of this box. Okay. There I am. I was going to hit something else, and that's what kind of threw me. Threw me for a loopy.
Not you-y. For a loopy?
Yeah.
That's very unusually.
That's right. I'm going to sing that song. Louie, Louie. Oh, no. Whatever it is. I don't remember that. Remember that song? Do you remember that song?
I do remember that song, yeah. Oops.
That was the...
What happened here? Whoops.
I don't know. We just got grayed out. That's weird. Wow.
I do this. Will it go in it? What happened?
I don't know. That's very, very, very interesting. I wish you could see everything we're saying because it's interesting. Welcome to what are we? Let us reason together. I had to look. Trying to remember what show we're on this day. What day is this? What week? Welcome everyone to June 14th. I don't normally say the date, but June 14th. Obviously, happy birthday, President Trump, but also happy Flag Day to everybody. This is a Flag Day in America. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I found some interesting things. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. But I love history. I do love history, very, very much so. Don't you love history?
I love history.
I love history. I love the history of this country. I love what it stands for. There's a lot of detractors that are out there today. Flag is very controversial. Can you imagine a flag, the flag of the United States, being controversial? And it is what it is. What it is. Let me just add a thing. Yeah. Add a thing and then get out of this one. Just hit the X. Yeah. And then wow. Oh no. We're doing a little homework here. House cleaning, yeah. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that looks better, I think.
There it is. Wow, genius.
Wow, there it is. I don't know. I'm not techno wizard here, not so much, but that's all right, But I always, I remember AviGayle always told me, because she took an electronics course way back, woman in electronics, and it was a very electrifying experience.
For everybody.
Yeah, but one thing that AviGayle always told me that she learned in electronics is if something is wrong when you're troubleshooting it, go to the source. So because a lot of times and this is true, there were times where I would be trying to fix something and I'm like, what is wrong with this thing? And I'm trying, and I even sometimes take it apart, and then I realize, oh, I didn't plug it in.
That's the key. They go to the source.
You got to go to the source. We need to be plugged in with the creator of heaven and earth.
Exactly.
His Holy Spirit.
You got it.
Did you like that segue?
I love that.
Hello.
That was perfect.
Thank you.
And you didn't even plan it.
I didn't even plan it.
The Father
but
did.
it worked.
Yeah.
But we had a screen issue here. It was like, I don't know what it was. It was just like, you ever see something that's kind of grayed out? You have a nice, beautiful picture, and then all of a sudden it gets grayed out, and so it's, that's what it was looking like. And I'm like, what is going on here? So, but I took AviGayle's advice from long time ago and checked the source. So I didn't want to reboot the whole computer because then that means we would be out of there totally. But I said, okay, there's something at issue. And I did not want to go and get a tissue, because I wasn't going to cry over a grayed out area.
You never do, James. You are definitely. I've never seen you cry over trying to fix something. I've seen you be vigilant.
Yeah, I have been in a little bit of pain though sometimes. Like when we were doing that ceiling fan.
I was in pain with you.
That ceiling fan, because we had to fix our ceiling fan. It's a beautiful, and I have to give kudos to you though. You were the one that picked this thing out. It's like, this is when we renovated this house. It was what was it, like 2000 or 2001. AviGayle, we went to this lighting place, and which a very, very nice lighting place. Didn't get it off of Amazon. I don't know, was Amazon back then? Yeah, I guess it was. But didn't go to Bradley's or Kmart or Sears or one of any store, like those. And then even Home Depot didn't even pick it out from there. Which you went to this very, very exclusive that really kind of all the big designers go to and pick out their lights and fixtures for their homes that they're designing and whatnot. So we went there and I was just humoring her. I was like, okay, we'll go. Yeah, we're not gonna buy anything, but we'll go.
and I'm thinking, we're not gonna. To myself, you think we're not gonna buy anything?
Yeah. And what happened was she saw this beautiful antique-looking fan. It was the antique color anyway. It wasn't really an antique fan, modern fan, but it had that antique finish, which I do like that antique bronze finish. And two other ones. We bought three of them all together there. And that was 2021. Today, all three of them are still working. Now, this one, the what do you call those things? The blades. There's a ring that you put the blades on, and it fell down. And we thought it was done. This is, even, I don't know why I'm telling you the story, but it's electrifying. And it's in lightning.
and it'll fan your flame.
This is getting good. But, so we actually had an electrician come because I thought it was an electrical issue, but it was really just a physical issue with this thing. And they took it all apart. They looked at it and they couldn't find anything about, any problems with it. And, in terms of something to fix. I said, but that ring, does that ring go up? And is there like maybe a set screw that holds it up? And he looked and said, oh yeah, it is. And he set it up and it worked. And that was like 4 years ago. Well, since then it fell back down. So now AviGayle and I had to make this choice, and it was getting to be close to the summer. This, broken probably, winter sometime, not broke, but stopped working, and so we had to take the thing down. And I've never taken.
Brian has a play of words with you. He says, I'm a fan of yours.
See, so we. Are
you his biggest fan, Brian?
I don't know. The biggest fan may be in that kitchen. I don't know. But we over there.
Sitting right next to you.
It is definitely sitting right next to me. So we decided to, it was a cool day. So we decided, okay, I moved everything out of the way. I brought I started it, and I said, okay, if I start something, I can't turn back, right? Can't turn back.
Let's correct that statement. If we start something, this fan needed 2 people, 4 hands.
It really did. So anyway, without trying to do it, and so at one point, I was trying to, I had to tip it, turn it upside down. But I'm like, I don't have anything to put it on. And the ladder was just a little bit too, because the wires were coming out of the ceiling and I didn't want to break those wires. That would have been another problem. So I'm saying to Gayle, actually probably yelling at, not yelling at, but AviGayle, to get me some, get me some thick books. I'm going to put it on top of the thing so I could rest the thing, and it worked. And so, but it took 2 hours. It seemed like a lot longer, but you get what you pay for. You really kind of, again, those, we have 3 fans that we bought at the same time. Excellent fans, very expensive ones at the time. And so thank you, AviGayle, for sticking to your guns, because if we didn't, we would have been probably replacing those things 3, 4, maybe even 5 times by now, because that's 26, almost 25 years.
I'm telling you, it was amazing. I'll tell you, but I'm just going to say, James is a genius when it comes to fixing things. He really is a genius, and I was just the gopher and the helper. But I'll tell you, it was a long endeavor to rectify the situation. Very, very long, very painful because the fan is in the ceiling and the fan is heavy and the fan needed to be adjusted. And James was, it was amazing. I have to say it was absolutely amazing how he dealt with it and fixed it. And, but it was long. It was a very long time to do it. But we're the type
of like 3 hours.
We're the type of couple that persevere. We believe in persevering, and if something has to be done, we will attack it and and do what we can. And it was.
But the thing is, you got to, and this is really a biblical principle too. Is we had to step out. I mean that I looked at that fan for months. And it never got fixed because I looked at it. I just looked at it, just looking at it, saying, I'm thinking about it. And like, okay, we don't need it right now. So I can push it a little bit longer, procrastinate a little bit. But there was a day that we had to step out. Abraham had to step out. Jacob had to step out. All these different things, yeah, you can just hit that arrow if you want.
Yeah.
No.
No. Oh, what?
No, just
right here.
Just where your name is. Just go down to no.
Wow, that's something that happened like that.
No idea. Yeah, right there. No,
right here.
Right there. Yeah, hit that. Beautiful. All right. I can't see what is that.
I have no idea what happened there.
I have no idea. Well, we're having some interesting challenges today, but that's all right, Wow, I don't know why.
It did get rectify itself one way or another, but it's really strange how that happened. Very strange. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just a little housework here, people. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put test, okay?
Yeah.
Test. Did I spell it right? Oh no, I didn't. I just try to see if that does anything. What is it? No. Oops.
Actually, it did fix it.
I did fix it?
Yeah, I fixed it. Yeah, it did. See, genius. It did. It fixed it.
Oh, okay. All right. I did. Okay. I put an advertisement on for somebody. So you're welcome. Don't know what that was, but anyway, but stepping out, that's pressing on, going toward the high calling of Yeshua, our high priest, our Messiah, our deliverer, the one who shed his blood for us and brought us back in relationship with the Father. That is awesome. We have to do something. Go ahead.
And I'm going to say something else, concerning what we do. Perseverance has to be part of our constitution, if you will, persevering. And that's something that we do. We persevere. We may look at something like the fan for a little while and say, we really need to get into this and deal with it. And we may look at it and kind of like examine it before it's taken apart. But the bottom line is this. I'm convinced of this, James. Action. Step out in faith and do it. Just take the step of faith and what do you get to lose? Nothing really. You've got everything to gain because what do you have to do? You have to think. You have to process it. You have to maybe have to stretch your arms a little more, and you have to do a few things that are going to cause a little muscle pain, which I experienced too. Both of us did because of having to. You have a fan that's on the ceiling, and you have to hold the fan while you're trying to connect the fan to another part of the fan, and it's not connecting as easily as you thought it would, and so your arms are getting tired. and your muscles are starting to hurt, but you persevere. And that's what James was doing. He was persevering. And then I was doing my best to hold something up underneath him. And, but I love it because that's one thing that we've learned. Don't stop. Don't give up. Persevere. Don't stop. Don't give up. We're going to make it. But it takes that desire, number one, to say, I am going to fix this. And then you can say, okay, Father, you've given me a good mind. This is James talking now. I'm talking for James. You've given me a good mind. You've given me many experiences in fixing things and putting things together and working to virtually put things together and build. And so practice makes permanent.
Amen.
Practice makes permanent. And
Amen.
so that was quite an endeavor, though. I have to say, it was definitely an amazing endeavor. And hallelujah for James. And I'm thankful that I played a little bit of a role in it. The gopher and the arm stretcher.
And a big help, big help, because couldn't have done it without you.
Thank
I
you.
would have still been there,
You'd be
hanging from the ladder.
You'd be
Then,
hanging.
help!
You'd be on top of
Help!
the fan saying, "I can't get down. I'm stuck."
Well, the guy who put that fan in for us way back, he really did a good job putting it in there, because it was I could have hung on that thing.
Yeah.
It was up there so tight, and I didn't want to take it down. That's what that was my goal, not to take it down. But when I was trying to put it back together, I couldn't. The way that the design is, it's a weird design, but I'm not going to go into that. But the way I couldn't get the screws to get into the holes to tighten it.
Because it was an awkward position.
It was an awkward position.
Very awkward. You're holding up
and the design wasn't that good.
And you're holding up a fan that weighs some serious, it has a weight to it. And in the meantime, you're trying to connect the fan with the different screws and everything. And the fan is awkward and heavy. And just imagine this, and your hands are up there. Your hands are holding it. So what's happening with your hands and your arms and your muscles? They're hurting. They're paining. The blood is rushing down to the feet. I'm telling you, it was quite an endeavor. But, again, perseverance pays off. And I believe the Father was there to help us. I really think that he was helping James and helping me. And, if you persevere, if you take steps of persevering, don't stop, don't give up. This is my motto. Don't stop, don't give up. You're going to make it. Try again. Don't stop, don't give up. You're going to make it. Try again.
Amen.
I actually gave a teaching on that in the Healing Voice of Hadassah last week, and it was about endurance, and it was about persevering, and it was about, don't stop, don't give up. We all have to go through trials. We all have to go through testings. And if you persevere and you just say, I know I'm doing this for a reason. This is a reason. It's a valuable reason, because it's saving a lot of money. And it's developing ingenuity to do it. You have to have ingenuity to do that. You know the definition of ingenuity? Look it up.
Well, speaking about, you kept on saying a reason for this, reason for that. That brings me to welcome to Let Us Reason Together. And this is a weekly broadcast that's really just talks about. We want to talk about what's on your mind, but we also want to talk about what the news is in the day and what possibly even some scripture of what's going on, and just kind of have a discussion. So welcome everyone to Let Us Reason Together on lamnetwork.tv, lamnetwork.tv. And you can go to the website. There's a beautiful monitor right there that you can get on. You can watch. We'd love to have you in the chat room. There's a live chat that goes on there, and very simple to maneuver. You can just change and put your name in there, whatever name you want, and then have a discussion on what we're talking about and add your comments. So, and also YouTube, we're on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch at the same time. So simulcasting this program on lamnetwork.tv. So bookmark that. let people know about it. Let people know what's going on about all the different producers that are here on lambnetwork.tv, bringing forth some wonderful truth in the scriptures. We're Bible believing folks that believe Genesis all the way to Revelation, and we understand that we need to obey His word. We need to read His word. We need to hear His word. We need to do His word, not just teach it, but to do. That's what Yeshua did, and He's our example. Jesus, He's our example of what we are to do. Luke wrote in the book of Acts, that Yeshua began to do and to teach. Interesting way of putting it, because you put the action first, the action, and that's Hebrew. He did what He taught. Are we doing what we teach? Are we doing, and how we read? Each one of us is an epistle, a letter that is read by all men. What is our story? What is our actions showing? Are we showing the goodness and mercy and compassion and love of the Father toward our fellow human beings, or do we become more self-centered and it's all about me? It's all that kind of stuff. So that is what you need to understand about yourself. That's what we've been learning about ourselves all these years. That we've been believing in Jesus, believing in Yeshua. Yeshua is the Hebrew name that we call Jesus. So we tend to, he was a Hebrew. He was from the tribe of Judah, born in what we would call today is the Jewish tribe, really. Yehuda, Judah, and so it's awesome. It is awesome. So today is Flag Day. So I figured we'd talk a little bit about Flag Day, because and then we're gonna go. So we're not going to spend too much time on this, because I want to spend at least 45 minutes on what you were talking about, AviGayle, life as a test. So we'll get into that too. But just quickly, it was 1777 that the flag resolution, passed in the Congress, but it was incredibly vague. That was the whole thing. It was 13 stripes at the time, both red and white. So 13 stripes that represented these 13 colonies, and then 13 stars. But it didn't tell you exactly, and it said the stars in a blue field, but it did not mention anything really that it was specific. And so when more states were being added, they not only added the stars to it, but they started adding the stripes to it. So they had 15 stripes and 18 stripes and 20 stripes. And they got to a point where they said, okay, because they said the flag grew too big in the sense, because you couldn't see the red and white lines well enough from a distance, and that's what they wanted to do. So in Vermont in 1791 and Kentucky in 1792 joined the Union. Congress passed the Flag Act of 1794. This added 2 new stripes, 2 new stars, and 2 new stripes. So you start to see now you get 15 and 15. And this was actually the flag that flew over Mount McKinney, the Stars and Stripes, the Star Spangled Banner. So that was the flag that was over there. But by 1818, 5 more states had joined, and then they realized that a new stripe for every state is just really not going to cut it. I didn't even know this. I thought this was interesting, because we see the flag today, and we always thought it had some sort of a semblance of that throughout the ages, throughout the 250 years. Obviously, the original one, they had the Betsy Ross flag, which had the 13 stars in the blue field in a circle, which I liked that in the sense, because it was the unity of the 13 states. 13 separate states, but in a cyclical manner, unity, no beginning, no end. So they did that so that it fixed the problem that in the April 4th, 1818, they did a flag act definitively stating that the permanent stripes were going to be locked at 13. A new star would be added for each state. And then listen to this. I didn't even know this. Crucially, new stars were not added immediately. So say there was a new, I'll just say the last state that was a state, Hawaii. It was, I can't remember when it was, but it was, say it was 1959, and say it was December 1st. I'm just saying, they wouldn't actually add the noon star until July 4th.
Oh.
That's when the things would start to come to play. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. I thought they would just start to change them immediately. So
I like that.
Yeah.
They did that.
Yeah. I mean, because July 4th, obviously, from American historical point of view, is very significant with the Declaration of Independence. Really, the day that we became a nation, even though we were still under Britain servitude, if you will. But it's interesting. I just I had something here, or that I just thought was interesting to, and we'll kind of, I want your thoughts on this. This is interesting because you think of the flag of the United States of America today, a beautiful symbol of freedom, liberty, but today a lot of people are calling it a flag of oppression and slavery, and they want reparations, and even though they were never in slavery themselves, and everybody wants gimme. It's all about me. It's not about the good of the country. It's all about the good of me, type of thing. And they use the stars and stripes as a weapon, weaponize it in that sense. And even in the school systems, because we got a very, very, very public woke school system, and I doubt very much that they teach about the beauty of the flag and what it stood for and what it went through, all the years of the things that took place. This month, as what, I'm not even going to say it, but that flag, which is the horrible flag, is prominent in school systems. I just came out of doing furniture for school systems, and they are very, very woke and all that. So I saw this. This was awesome. So in June 4th, 1885. I love this. This is good. Bernard J. Sigrand. Bernard J. Sigrand. I've never heard this name before. He was a 19-year-old school teacher, a young guy, 19 years old, and a school teacher from Waubeca, Wisconsin. He placed a 10-inch flag, 38 star at that time, 38 star flag in a bottle on his desk, and asks his students to write essays on its meaning. I would have loved. I would have loved. To see what those children wrote.
Yes.
Back. I don't know. I have to research. I just thought of that now. I wonder if they have any of those preserved. More than likely not. But it would be cool if they did. If they had 3, 4, 5 of the kids that wrote little essays on the meaning of the flag. Because today might be a totally different story if in fact anybody would even do that. But so based on what he did that day, he spent the rest of his life advocating for a national holiday, and he is widely considered the father of Flag Day. But I never heard that before. I never heard his name. Bernard J. Sigrand, 19 years old.
Wow.
A 19-year-old teacher. Boy, did he go to a 4-year college? Probably not. He just knew. He was just gifted.
He's probably a gifted. He probably read a lot.
Yeah.
He probably, he cultivated this teaching through reading, through searching out, and through studying.
Yeah. Again, it's just an awesome thing. So that was that was June 14th, so 1885. Remember that name, Bernard J. Sigrand, 19 years old, a school teacher in Wisconsin. One more thing here. The Society of Colonial Dames. Oh, that's an interesting. The Society of Colonial Dames. So a women's club lobbies women. I love this because unfortunately today you see a lot of young, liberal, woke, Marxist type socialist women coming against the flag, coming against America, coming against everything, coming against wealth, coming against businesses, coming against the government of the United States and all that kind of stuff. But it says the Society of Colonial Dames successfully, this is lobbies in the where? City of Philadelphia. That's where the signing took place. That's where the discussions and they were heated. There were heated discussions about what was going to take place in the new government of America with the Constitution of the United States. George Washington presiding over that Continental Congress. So that was in the city of Philadelphia to observe Flag Day. Flags were handed out to school children, and public celebrations are held at Independence Hall. Pennsylvania later becomes the first state to declare Flag Day a legal state holiday in 1937. Philadelphia. Think about Philadelphia today. Not really a nice place, and it's very woke and very, very, a lot of bad things happen there now. But that was the founding of this nation 250 years ago. Have we come a long way? Have we come a long way in the wrong direction in terms of that? Well, and do you see any kind of revival that's taking place with America?
Yeah, I see a revival with people who have the Word of God in their hearts. We're revived. We're living a revival, and we're living a life of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So there are people who are steadfast in their faith, steadfast in the scriptures, steadfast in reading what is necessary to keep our hearts and our souls on the right path. Yeah, there's a remnant. There's definitely a remnant of people who are for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you're looking at two right now. So, I don't associate myself with the understanding or the lack of understanding that takes place with the people who are not taking heed to the Constitution, not taking heed to the scriptures, the Bible, not taking heed to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So there are people who do. There are people who are steadfast. We have a President Donald J. Trump, whose birthday is today. And he takes it very seriously. He takes the United States of America very seriously. He loves the country. When he was a young man, very young, I kept seeing him, and I said, this man someday is going to be president. I just knew it. I would talk to James about it and talk to my son Brian about it. And I would say, he's going to be president one day. And sure enough, that's what happened. And it was like he's a builder. So when you say, wow, how can a builder be president? Why not? A builder that wants to, number one, take care of the United States of America, take care of the land, take care of the farmers, take care of, those who are involved in rebuilding and building so that the next generation will have something to live for and with. It's life is about building. We're you talked about that young man, 19 years old. Well, 19 years old, and then he continued. So he was building his intelligence. He was building his heart. He was building his understanding of being a light to children. And to do something. Our life is about building. If you're sitting back and just watching television or watching your video games and everything like that, you're not building. That's not building. Building has to do with stepping back and pursuing something, and use your own mind, your own will, your own emotions, your own heart to do something with your life. There's a lot of people that have they were blessed, they were given a lot of talent by the creator of heaven and earth, but because of the lack of discipline and because of the addiction to television, the addiction to television, there's an addiction to television. There's an addiction to the phone, the cell phones. There's an addiction to, watching various things that are on YouTube and whatnot. I'm just saying that, we as adults need to encourage the younger generation, whether it's 19 or whether it's 5 or whether it's however old, to put down the cell phone, shut off the television, shut off everything, and give them a good book to read. You can start with the Bible, or there's a lot of other good books that children can read and young adults can read. Get their mind going and everything, so that they're processing with their mind and processing with their heart. And so I think that there's a remnant that's alive and well here in the United States of America. And I say a remnant, and I say it seriously. Unfortunately, too many people have lost discipline. They've lost the desire to train up a child in the way he should go. And then when he's old, he won't depart from it. And so being a mother, being a father takes discipline. It takes someone that says, this is what we have to do in order to have a better life. We have to develop our mind, will, and emotions, and then we have to do a lot of praying and find out what's my purpose in life. You go through school and you go through learning for a purpose. We all have a divine purpose in life, and we have to ask ourselves, am I cultivating and living that purpose? Am I serving the creator of heaven and earth by by being a blessing, being a servant to the creator of heaven and earth, and learning? Are you learning from the Bible? Are you learning from books that have been written by maybe presidents or people who were in the service? They went into the service as their career. There's so many ways that one can cultivate an interest within your own heart and in your own life. But again, if you interview people, if I went on the street and started interviewing people about how much time do you spend reading? How much time do you spend reading the scriptures? How much time do you spend processing in your own heart, saying, what am I supposed to do when I become an adult? How can I prepare myself to become an adult and do something that's going to make an impact in the world around me? How can I serve? What can I do to serve? To ask those kind of questions. If you had an opportunity and you had all these things thrown before you and you had an opportunity to choose from something you'd serve, what would you want to do as a servant? There's some people that just want to go into become an electrician. They want to become a plumber. They want to be, and that's a good choice. That's a good choice because it's a productive, and it can be a lifelong choice, and it's productive because you're learning and you're building. People who build and learn how to put things together and learn how to think how to put things together. That's a process that is necessary in life. It's a necessary process in life. And and you could be a chef. There's people that cook. There's people that that repair cars. There's people that like to farm, and we need farmers. There's people that were grown up in an environment of farmers, and they need to be able to do what they have to do. So I'm saying all these things is because, unfortunately, if you sit down and talk to some people these days, you don't hear this kind of conversation. You don't hear the conversation of careers. You don't hear the conversation of what are you talking to your children about as far as, what do you, giving them books that they can read and that can cultivate their mind and give them an understanding of being creative, being active. Even the just activity, being active, and a lot of young people at a young age, and James can attest to it, and I can, doing a lot of running around. And I mean, literally playing sports, going ice skating, going roller skating, playing baseball, playing, hockey, whatever, I love playing in the fields of whatever, I was like that. I loved being out. And then another part of learning who you are and what you can do, going and sitting down and talking with people. When I was 5 years old, 6 years old, I would look around the neighborhood and see if there were any people sitting on their porch, just sitting there. And I'd run over there, and I was like 5, 6, 7. I mean, I was young, and I'd sit there and I'd talk to these elderly people. I had no idea how that was cultivating me to be someone that knew that we have to communicate with people. There's some people that need to be encouraged. There's some people that need to understand that there's a Bible. It's called, the Bible is a book that we need. It's the Word of God, and we need to read the Scriptures. He created us. The Scriptures are the Word of God, and He's our Creator. And the book is written so that we understand what's required of us. You go to a job, you find out what's required of you. What time do I have to be here? What's my job? What do I do? You ask the person. Well, there's a Creator that gave you life, and we need to be cognizant of what that life means and how we can play a very strong role in that life. What are we doing? What are we doing to make it stronger? What are we doing to exercise our own ability to be able to communicate? And to be able to also give a testimony when you talk to people. Oh, by the way, did you know that I wrote a book? Or did you know that I'm a person that counsels people? Or did you know that there's an opportunity to learn how to teach little children how to swim? There's an opening there. If you can swim and you want to take some swimming lessons, you can also become an instructor to teach young children how to swim. I mean, there's so many opportunities. The question is, what are we thinking? What are we doing? What is captivating our interest in the day we're living in? Is it something that you say, I want to do something that makes a difference? I want to do something that makes a difference and helps people. I mean, there's just, to me, James, you asked about, what's going on in the world. There are people that are they're taking advantage of their life and doing the right thing. There's other people, unfortunately, that are giving in to the world system one way or another. And it can be a lot of very devastating things, like drugs and alcohol and things that just destroy you.
Yep.
And there's other things that can happen that we can be an encouragement to people. We can be teachers. We can be students. We can be teachers of music. We can be teachers of reading, writing, and arithmetic, just school teachers, which I say just, but it's not just. It's not just. It's very significant. So we have to take it seriously. We have to take it seriously about our life. Our life matters.
Amen.
And a lot of people don't think that, James.
No,
a lot of people do not think their life matters because you can tell by their lifestyle.
Yeah. And I just want to do a shout out to, I don't know if she's still here. I hope she's here. My cousin Lori. She gave us a like. And talk about, someone who took the abilities that the Father gave her in singing and music and and has went out and did some beautiful things, wrote some beautiful songs, and sings to a lot of different places,
and sings popular songs too. She sings a lot of popular
Yeah.
songs. Yeah,
yeah,
which is good. Because people enjoy that kind
yeah,
of
yeah, because
upbeat. Yeah.
because exactly. So welcome, Lori. Hope you're still here, but thank you for the like. Anyway, let's look into the life is a test. I know we talk about that periodically, but what does that mean? We talk about that a bit here and there. We have this wonderful um, uh, Jewish woman who's taught years and years ago. I believe she's with the Lord now, of blessed memory, and she did this whole thing on life is a test. So let me just kind of give the overview of what I think is it's interesting, because the concept of life as a test. Who likes tests? How many people like tests? I always kind of like tests, later on, not in the early years, but in my high school years, I love tests more so than I did before that. Um, but the Hebrew concept of a test is totally different than what we think. When we think of a test, we're thinking of pass and fail. We take a test, we either pass it or we fail it, and then if we fail it, we have to take it again. If we pass it, we move on to the next test and all that. But what really is a test from a Hebrew perspective? That's what I wanted to know. I wanted something deeper than just, all right, we take a test, boom, we pass it, we move on to the next test, but have we learned anything from these tests? And that's something that is just something that's very powerful, because we want to learn from what we're going through. But the concept of life as a test is deeply woven into the Hebrew scriptures. And in my opinion, that's the whole. Some will think it's the what they call Old Testament. I don't like that term. I think it's the first covenant, the Hebrew scriptures, and then the new covenant, which is the New Testament, or Brit Hadashah in Hebrew. But the Hebrew perspective of testing is often quite different from the modern Western, what we think of the educational view. So in modern context, the test is usually designed to see if you fail or pass, like I just said, based on an outside standard, or to find out something unknown. That's kind of right. You learned something, you didn't know it, you studied it, you did your due diligence, you took the test, you got the answer right, whether it's an essay, whether it's a multiple choice, or whatever it may be, you got it right. But from the ancient mindset, which is I think is something that we need to look at, testing is not about is less about the arbitrary pass fail. It's not about passing or failing. The exam that you just took, the test that you just took. More about refinement. Refinement, validation. That's a good word. And revealing what is really already deep inside a person's heart. I think that's very interesting. But so it's not so much about passing a test and then moving on and then passing the next test, and then moving on and failing a test, and then say, okay, I got to do that test again, and then you pass that test finally, and then you go on to the next thing. That's more lineal. That's more, in the Hebrew thought mindset. It's we learn something and we're growing, we're developing, we're refining, we're being validated, we're revealing what is already deep inside our hearts. So here's some interesting views. The Hebrew perspective, the views of life as a test. It's the linguistic root, nara and zaraf, are basically the two Hebrew words of the root. So to understand the Hebrew view, it helps to look at two primary Hebrew words used for testing. And the first one is nasa. It's a nun, a samek, and a hey, often translated as to test or to prove. This isn't about trying to trip someone up. It's more closely to that God is testing someone. God is testing us in some way to make our faith viable and resilient. I think that is awesome. One of the best scriptures, and we read this every day, every single day we read this. And because the wilderness experience, the 40 years in the wilderness of our forefathers, all the children of Israel that were in the wilderness, right after this is at the beginning of it. This is like 3 months into it, and at Mount Sinai, they got the 10 words. They got they heard his voice. The sound of the shofar, the sound of his voice. They saw the thunders, the lightnings, the smoke, the fire, all that kind of stuff. And so after that, the people said that they trembled and stood at a distance, and they said, "You speak with us." It said to Moshe, "You speak with us, and we hear, but let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die." And here's Moshe's response, and we read this every single day, 7 days a week, 365 every single day. We do not miss reading Exodus 20, verses 1 through 20, as AviGayle calls it, 2020 vision. I love that. So verse 20, it says, "And Moshe said to the people, 'Do not fear, for Elohim has come to prove you.'" There's that word, nasa. He's come to prove you. And again, we talked about it. He's come to refine you, to validate you, to reveal what is already deep in your hearts. And that's what he wants us to do in order that his fear be before you so that you do not sin. And that's what the Hebrew mindset of life is a test, or taking a test, is more on that, AviGayle, more on that refinement, validation, revealing what is already deeply inside our hearts, the character of us, refining us and shaping us and molding us, being on the potter's wheel, if you will, being molded and shaped more and more into his image. I think that's a very interesting thought process from. Because, when we think of a test in America or the Western culture, we just think of, we take a test, we study for a test, we take a test, we pass it, we fail it. If we fail it, we take it over again. But if you look at it from the point of view of what's in our heart, and that he wants to prove us, to test us, so that we do not sin. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are somewhat different than what you're saying. They're on the same page, but they're a little bit different. Because I believe that when we are born, we have the opportunity to do what's right in the eyes of the Creator of heaven and earth. Because we're born with a soul.
Yeah.
And we're born with a soul. And the soul is something that will continue to encourage us to do what's right. But the key is this is one of the major keys that takes place in our own personal lives. We get distracted. A lot of people get distracted. They talk about certain things, or they do certain things, but then stay on the straight and narrow. They get distracted because they don't want to necessarily deal with who they are individually. And I'm talking they, meaning all of us. We all need to understand that we are here with a divine purpose. Each one of us has a purpose to fulfill, and as I mentioned earlier. And but the problem is, with human beings, is again being distracted. And let's just start like from a time when you're a young girl or a young boy. You can get distracted by other children. Other children may say, let's do this. Let's go and do this. And then they go out and they do things that they shouldn't be doing. They do things they shouldn't be doing. So they didn't pass the test there. So when we have that situation, and it takes place in everybody's life, there isn't anybody that doesn't go through some type of challenge of it was funny. I used to work at the hospital, and there was a doctor, and then there was this little boy who was his son, and the mother was home, and so I used to talk to the doctor all the time about their little son and everything. And so he loved his son, and showed me pictures of him, and cute little boy. Oh my goodness, so cute. And so one day it was snowing. I mean, they had a snowstorm, and the snowstorm was like about 5 feet outside. So the mother had to step out of the house for a minute to get something. And she just went outside the door, not even far. And the little boy closed the door on the mother, and the door was locked. So the mother was outside and the boy was inside. And so there's a test. There you see a reality test. A little boy, I'm going to say he was probably 4 years old, maybe 4, maybe pushing 5. But he was inside, nice and warm. Mommy was outside on the doorstep. And so the little boy was crying, "Mommy, mommy." And so the mother's saying, "You're nice and warm. I'm outside here. I'm cold because you closed the door." So the point I'm making with this is that was a test. It was a test for the little boy. And I'm sure they'll discuss that many, many times as the boy develops and grows. But the mother will never forget it. How her little boy was inside the house, and she was outside, and she was being tested. How am I going to deal with this? How am I going to get back in the house? No keys. Who takes keys out when they just go out to pick something up and everything? But anyhow, so that was a test. But I've got to tell you, they passed the test because the mother dealt with it absolutely perfect. She didn't get angry with the little boy, and one way or another, she found a way of getting someone to open up her door and coming in, and everything was resolved. But it was a test. And I know it sounds simple, kind of simple, but we have those kind of tests every single, most of the day. There's, like for example, you're in a situation and you're with a whole bunch of people. And so some of the people, say we were going out to eat or something. Say we're going out to eat. By the way, did you lock the door downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. See, that was a test. The door was locked. That was the kind that I wanted to ask that question for a reason, because sometimes, we're in a place and we forget maybe that the door is open and it should have been closed because we've come up and we're spending hours upstairs and the door is wide open. And that's a test because, if someone says, "Wow," and they're not nice people and they want to rob, kill, and destroy, whatever, they can come in the house and who knows what could happen. And so the test was, did the door get locked? And the answer was yes. So we have these different tests in life. How we talk to people, what we do with our life. If we're with a bunch of people, we're with a whole group of people, and various ages, various experiences, and we're sitting around the table talking to these people, how do we respond to them? How do we respond to the people? And everybody will have a different, if we sat around the table with all these people and we could ask, so how would you respond to this situation? Say there was a woman, and the woman was very angry. She was very, very angry. She was angry at her husband. She was angry at her husband. And her husband wasn't sitting around the table with us. He wasn't sitting around the table with us. he was off working, but she was sitting around the table with all these other women, and she was complaining about her husband to all these women. Now, did she pass the test? Did she pass the test? Murmuring and complaining. And it's an interesting question, because that is one of those areas that we all have to guard our tongues with. We have to guard our tongues, and we have to guard what we're listening to. You may not be the woman that's complaining about her husband, but you may be a woman that's listening about the complaining of her husband, and you have a test going on too, because you're saying to yourself various thoughts. You are judging that man, and you may also be judging the woman. So these are tests that go on in life, and they're very basic, but it's those basic tests that have a major impact on, do we pass the test or don't we? And I'll give one other example. I remember years ago, I think I was had a relationship with this man who was, I forget exactly what he actually did for work, but anyhow, and we were sitting around with the man and his wife and other women, and they were all just sitting around, and we were talking about, I know what it was. He was running for election. This was years ago. When I tell you years ago, I mean, this was years ago. And he was running for election. And so there was men and women and everything. They're all sitting around. And then all of a sudden, we're sitting around, and this one woman spoke out, totally off the subject of the election, off the subject of, where do I go to stand to hand out your information and everything. And then all of a sudden, this other woman started talking about a young boy. And she was talking about this young boy, and she was saying terrible things about him. And I didn't understand, why she had this, why all of a sudden this surfaced in her thought process. Why did she all of a sudden just start to talk about this boy? And so she kept going on, and finally it dawned on me who she was talking about. And I knew the boy very well. And I said to her, I said, you know something? What you just said was extremely painful. And she says, well, why is that painful to you? What's the matter? And I said, because the young boy you were just talking about is my son. And the whole room was silent. I said, we all need to guard our thoughts and guard our tongues, because your tongues are telling on you. And what you said was, it could have been very, very harmful if I wasn't bold enough to stand out and say, I urge you, don't let this happen again to anybody else. Because it's very, very, very painful when individuals come against someone they don't even know. They have no idea anything about that individual. And yet for some reason, they have this desire to gossip and to say something. And I said, you had no idea who I was. You had no idea that I would even know who you were talking about. But I knew, because I'm his mother. And so that was a test for both her and for me. How was I going to deal with this situation? Was I going to deal with it with anger? Or was I going to deal with it by stating a situation that hopefully would help her never to feel like she has the liberty to even talk about a young child. I'm not going to go into any details because, number one, my son, who she was talking about as a young boy, grew up to be an athlete and did very well and had great opportunity in many ways. But, when he was younger, he was shy. He didn't, he wasn't the aggressive type of person at that point in time. But people change. Children change. But when the way the conversation came up, it was very painful to me because I'm like, this is not right. For somebody to expose a young child for and not even knowing anything about them, not even knowing anything about what's going on. And so anyhow, I think that's another test of being tested. Gossiping or finding fault with somebody you don't even know. You know nothing about them. And I believe that we just need to be more sensitive. We need to be sensitive to other human beings, but we can have conversations with them. That will help them understand maybe how to have a relationship with the creator of heaven and earth, how to read the Bible. Or maybe there's a, maybe somebody has a challenge with fear. They are embarrassed, or they don't know how to talk to people, or they don't have courage to talk to people, and they lack friends because they just don't know how to reach out and talk to people. So there's ways that we as individuals can be tested ourselves, because we're being tested how we treat people. We ourselves. I was being tested when I spoke to that woman. I was being tested. I know I was, but I just felt like I could not just let it go, because I knew what I knew. It's amazing. I had discernment that I knew what was going on. And but I said if it had gone any longer, or if anybody else was trying to fabricate it or try to criticize or trying to figure it out, let it go. What is it? What is it to you anyhow? Why even discuss this? What's the purpose? I think put your brain in gear before you put your mouth in motion is a good advice. Put your brain in gear before you put your mouth in motion. Because what bearing did that have on anybody? What did that prove, other than it caused me to address it? And I felt like I needed to address it. I really didn't know about life as a test, but I knew I was being tested right there. It was just amazing how it just resonated in my heart who the woman was talking about, and for some reason it resonated in my heart to say, you need to guard, number one, your thoughts. And we also need to guard our tongues, because our tongues tell on what's going on in our soul. If we're gossiping, if we're murmuring, if we're complaining, if we're, anything that is creating unnecessary challenges between other people. We have to correct people. I used to teach school. I know how to correct people, but you have to, have wisdom. You have to be as wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove, but you have to have wisdom. So I just felt like I wanted to bring that up, because that was something that resonated in my heart when I was a young woman and with a young child. And so I believe that was a test all around.
It definitely was a test. But what did it do? And how did it affect you? How did it? Did you learn from it? Did you develop from it? Because again, from the Hebrew perspective, testing is an honor, because all testing comes from the Father, and He only chastises those He loves. And He reproves those that He, and disciplines those that He loves. If there's no discipline in our lives, there's no love. Meaning that if your father, your mother, do not discipline, or if we don't discipline our children, how can we say we love our children? So testing is an honor, and it's something that's from the Hebrew perspective. Again, it's a sign of Abba's investment in us, and that's an interesting modern term in a sense, but investing in us to know what is in our hearts. The heart of the matter, our hearts, mind, will, emotions, is what is being refined, what is being cultivated, what is being like the gold, refined in the refiner's fire. That's another Hebrew word, but it's still for those testings that the Father, because those things, be put in a refiner's fire is not easy. It's painful and it hurts. But if we understand it, that is because of the love that the Father had for each one of us. It was so important to us that we're being cultivated, we're being tested, and in a sense, giving opportunity, which a lot of people don't take these days, but believers have the opportunity by this refining to teshuva.
That's interesting. You said it's being tested to be refined.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the courage came up for me to speak out, because I could have just kept my mouth shut and had some very strange, bad feelings toward this woman. But even as a young woman as I am and was, was,
You are.
but even at that point, I said, it needs to be brought out. I felt like I needed to rescue her from being, to have that kind of subjective reasoning, and not, you don't mind if you have subjective reasoning, but it's when the reasoning becomes public,
right,
that you say, what's the purpose? What is the purpose in expressing this? And that goes with a lot of different things. There's a lot of different things that, we need to be, we need to guard our tongues. Again, we need to guard our tongues. We tend to, and I tell me, we tend to be very quick with the response with our tongues.
We do.
And we need to, we really need to be cognizant of that, because our tongues are telling on us. And I believe that has to do with the testing. We're being tested. We're being, even with our thoughts, we think just if it's things that we're saying, but it's also our thoughts. The Father knows our thoughts. And not that we can't think, we should be thinking, but what are we thinking? Do you ever have that expression? What was I thinking? But you said that after the thought, after the thought was expressed. What was I thinking when I said what I said?
Exactly.
And did it help? What I thought I should say at that point in time, I'm talking about something else now, totally different. Was that necessary? Was it necessary for me to say things to somebody or another person? Was that really necessary? Or could I have chosen different words that could have made a different situation? I mean, these are tests.
These are tests. These are refinings. These are being transformed into His image more and more. And you're right. How do we deal with things? Because everything we deal with is a test. Everything that we talk to each other and how we respond to one another, and because a lot of people, when we talk with people, sometimes there's agreement, sometimes there's not agreement, and
that's interesting. You said that. That's very interesting. You said that.
Yeah.
So how so when we make a suggestion to somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
We make a suggestion.
Yes.
We say, why don't you try
ABC?
Yeah. but I was trying to think of some kind of a concrete,
example?
concrete example. Why don't you? I would say this, okay. Why don't you try reading some scriptures in the Bible? Why don't you try? And I'm talking about to somebody that may have some major issues with attitude and with feeling like they're not wanted, or feeling like I'm being neglected. So my suggestion is, number one is, the Father has given us his divine word. And when we read his divine word, it is divine and it has a divine answer. It gives you a reason or a purpose or a suggestion, or it gives you a definite work that you can do to change what you're going through. In other words, when we go through certain situations and we feel like, and I just said that key word, feelings, and I'm going by feelings instead of the truth. So when you read the Bible, what are we getting? We're getting the truth from God, the truth from the creator of heaven and earth. So that's why we encourage people to pass the test. The best way to pass the test in life is to read the divine word. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. You can start in the beginning and read the divine word, and his word will give you wisdom, will give you encouragement, will give you truth, and the truth will set you free. We're not just saying this. This is part of our lifestyle. We read his divine word every day, several chapters every day. And what has it done? It's changed our attitude. It's changed our thinking concerning what's required of me. How do I talk to people who have not read the Word of God yet? How do I minister to them? The Word of God is divine, and it's a word that is given to us as human beings so that we will not stumble in darkness, because the Word of God is light. You will not stumble in darkness if you read his divine word. You'll stumble in darkness if you don't read his word, if you don't pray, if you don't seek his face and seek his kingdom, if you don't listen and obey, you will stumble in darkness.
It's amazing, and we're going to have to unfortunately get, because I think I could talk about this for another hour. Really, I just because you're making me think a lot of different things, and but one thing, the one man in the scriptures that really probably an individual. I mean, you could talk about Abraham and sacrificing his son. That is, I could never even imagine what he was going through.
But let me just say, can I just stop you right there for 1 minute? Just quickly, 1 minute. Okay, one quickly. Okay. When Abraham had to sacrifice his son, the thing that he said when he was going up the mountain, he said, we're going up the mountain, his son and him. We're going up the mountain. He had the animal, and he had no animal. He had the wood, and he had the fire. And he said, we're going up the mountain to praise and worship. We're going up the mountain to praise and worship. We will be back.
That's right.
And
statement of faith.
But Isaac thought, you're going up the mountain, and from my understanding is I'm the sacrifice.
Well, I don't even know if he understood that exactly.
He thought
there was no animal.
Yeah,
there was no animal for the sacrifice.
Yeah. He definitely was questioning what was going on, because my understanding is it affected his life. But the bottom line is this: Abraham said, "We're going up the mountain to praise and worship. We'll be back."
That's right.
Is that encouraging?
It's very encouraging.
Oh my goodness,
that's very encouraging. So he had faith that the Father would, even if in fact he had to sacrifice Isaac, he would raise him from the dead. But fortunately, the father knew his heart, but he wanted Abraham to understand that refinement of his character in what was really deep within his heart, and he passed with flying colors. The what was in his heart, So, we could even talk about Job. I mean, that's another one. But we can't do that right now because it's just not enough time. Because it's too big of a subject. Maybe we'll talk about Job at maybe some point. Maybe
we should. This should be a continuation. This is a good subject.
Yeah, maybe we could do it on Israel My Delight.
Yeah, because it's a good subject. It really is a good subject, and life is a test. Right now, we're being tested. Even with every word that we've said today, we're being tested. But we pass the test if we are trusting in the Creator of heaven and earth. If we're trusting in His divine word, but there's the key. We need to read His divine word. You need to open up the Bible and read the scriptures, because His word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. All of His words. And so it needs to be part of our lifestyle. So if you have never read the Bible, you need to open up the Word of God and read it. Read it and allow it to minister to your soul, minister to your heart. And you'll see such a difference. And we like to start off with Exodus 1 through 20. Exodus 20, 1 through 20. Yeah, Exodus 20, 1 through 20. And we've read it every day.
Exactly. I think it's a good place to begin. And, because those words, I believe, are what makes up all the instructions for our lives out of those 10 beautiful, beautiful words that were on Mount Sinai.
They'll test you.
Yeah, they will. They will. And we saw it right there in Exodus in verse 20, that the Father was to prove you, to test you, so that you do not sin, that you stay in His fear, His uprightness, straight. That's what the fear means there, Yarah. Which is really kind of a pointing and the direction that we need to go in, and it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, but we need to read His word. We need to do His word. We need to be His word. In terms of
need to live His word.
Live His word. That's kind of like me saying be His word. We living His word, and being examples to a dying world out there, because there's a lot of people that are dying, not hearing His word. There's a famine in the land, but not of bread and water and food and all that. It's the hearing of the word of Yah, His word. But again, that word hearing is Shema, which means to obey, to hear and obey, and to do His word. I love the Hebrew because it gives you much more of a understanding of the word, as opposed to just one English word. When you say hearing, what does that mean to us? But if you look at the definition in the ancient understanding of Hebrew on Shema, you understand it's more than just hearing. It's hearing, it's doing, it's being active. Hearing it can be very passive, but hearing and obeying and doing is very active. Remember, I say this all the time, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that He gave, that's action. He gave His only begotten Son, so that whoever so believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. So I think that's it for today, my sweets.
Okay.
All right, so we'll have want a cup of coffee?
Sure. Sure.
Any final thoughts? We get about 2 minutes.
No, I think we covered it. I think it's definitely a good word, and it's a good message. And I just pray that people yield to it, because there's nothing more powerful than His divine word. Remember, the heavens and the earth were created by His divine word. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth by His words. He spoke, and they happened. He spoke. Elohim spoke. Elohim created. So you've got to have that connection, and you've got to have that personal understanding between you and Elohim. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And now we
Amen.
have a Bible where you can read the Bible and you can connect with the creator of heaven and earth, and you can connect with, am I doing what's right in his eyes? Am I passing the test?
Amen. Amen. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget War Room Prayers 7 days a week. They started this morning and then goes 6 days till Friday. We also have Israel My Delight and Hidden Voice of Hadassah at 6 o'clock. Israel My Delight at 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. So and don't forget to look through lambnetwork.tv. Go to the website, look through it, and there's some great teachings on there. You can submit prayers, you can donate, you can contact the management at lambnetwork.tv. You can there's a whole new Torah library so that you can see all the different Torah studies that take place here on Lamb Network. So we thank you for listening and have a great day. Shalom, shalom, everyone.
Shalom Aleichem.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network.
Sins are as scarlet, they should be white as snow, white as snow, white wool.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm James O'Hare, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
White as snow, white as snow.